Good morning, comrades. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back here at the Nürburgring, and welcome to our review video of BMW G42 M240i. Now, as you can see, the video is quite long because we're going to go very much in depth. First, I'm going to talk about the features that I like about the car when it comes to daily use for people who will stay off the track. But since this channel is focused on track performance and especially driving on the Nürburgring, we're gonna go very much in depth, put the car on the lift, put it on scales, see how much it weighs, see what the alignment is and how we can change that. And later, of course, we're going to take it out on the Nürburgring so you can see how it drives on the track, and finally we will come to a conclusion. Now, first of all, a couple of things. You can see that the car is quite dirty, which is an understatement. It's because I've done in the last 1.5 week time dozens of laps with it. We washed it in between and then it got dirty again, and I think it actually contributes to the trustworthiness of this review, that we actually drove the car. It was not a garage queen. We were not doing parking lot meetings with it. We actually used it, and I can tell you everything what I have to say about it afterwards. Now, when it comes to BMW M240 in general, when this car was announced, the G42 platform, I was extremely excited, ecstatic maybe to an extent, because M240 or even M140 from previous generation is a very important car for BMW. It has a very big cult following because the platform is extremely, I would say, friendly for car enthusiasts. The B58 engine that we can find in predecessor and also here offers almost endless tuning possibilities. And the car itself, it's, you could say, baby BMW M2 for people who do not want to spend extra money on the M2 because they're not gonna track it, but they want to have the compactness, the looks, and also to a certain extent performance of the 2 Series. This is the car to go to. This is the car that will attract the younger audience, the young enthusiasts, people who don't need the size or don't want to spend the money for an M3 or an M4. This is a very important car. For me personally, it was and is a very important car because M240R, the race car of the predecessor, the previous model, it was one of my first race cars that I raced here on the Nürburgring Nordschleife, and I absolutely loved it. And also when I drove multiple M240s or 140s, actually modified M240 xDrive version that I drove last year, I told that this was probably the best car that I drove on the Nürburgring when it comes to its all-rounders, the versatility, the usability, etc. So it goes without saying that was very excited to try out if this is going to be able to keep up with its predecessor. So let's talk quickly about this. This is the xDrive version. This means it's all-wheel drive. As mentioned, it has already the B58 engine inside, but it delivers 474 horsepower. Quite a lot. More importantly, it has actually more horsepower than the original M2, which only had 370 at the beginning. Later M2 Comp had 420. So power, there's enough. That's something that I definitely notice on the road and that you can definitely also notice on the track. Let's quickly talk about the looks, because again, although this channel is oriented on performance, etc., majority of people, 90, maybe 95%, probably will never end up tracking their M240, especially maybe not in the first few years when the warranty is there, you don't want to mess up certain things. So I think it's important to point out a couple of things when it comes to the looks, the usability, certain features that I really liked while using the car also on the streets. Now, the looks. First of all, we have quite a decent grille. Of course, this could be a very important point because, I mean, it's a long old song about having massive grills on the M3 and M4, but it could be a very important feature for you. For me, I absolutely love the front. Not only you have here this grille that is actually active, it will open itself up if you need additional cooling, it will remain closed if you need to actually bring the car up to temperature sooner, which is a good feature. Love the headlights, the design of them, and also the functionality of them at night. We have additional some coolers down there. We have also oil cooler. Overall, front is great, including the engine, etc. So let's talk a bit about the brakes. So this car, this particular version, is equipped with the so-called M-Technic package. So you have slightly bigger brake discs. The base model is equipped with 354mm. With the M-Technic you get 374mm brake discs. The brake performance is quite good. However, I must say that the weight of the car is quite heavy. The xDrive version, the numbers vary, but what you can find on the internet, it says 1690 kilos. With big weight comes big responsibility in terms of braking performance, especially when you start accelerating quite fast, what this baby can do. So my advice to you, go always for the M-Technic package, because you do need those brakes. If you're going to end up tracking the car, you will definitely need to upgrade them. Better fluid, braided lines, and probably also obviously different brake pads. But for the beginning, actually quite okay. But then again, if you're going to end up driving some mountain passes, some mountain roads, it will be quite demanding on your brakes. So it is important. Another thing that I don't really like about the car, actually one of the major things that I don't like, we will take the weight out of the equation, it's actually the suspension. Even for the sporty type car handling, even for the road use, not even the track use, the suspension setup is extremely soft in my opinion. Now on track you have lots of, you miss this sharpness and directness, but also on the road it feels a bit boaty. So even when you buy a stock car, I think you would be really happy if you upgrade it to something. Bürstein B16, for example, comes on my mind, because again, this M240 and M140 from last year that I drove had a B16 on it. I really very much like it, or any equivalent of that. The mirrors, like the design, like the styling, all the other features, I mean, we can talk about them, but the most important thing, or the biggest critique point, is here on the rear. Whereas with the M3 and M4 people dislike the front when it comes to the grills, here this is the rear that people are actually quite unhappy about because of the weird taillights. Me personally, I have not much issues with that, because I realized I don't look that much at the rear of the car, but mostly at the front. But I would say that there's a missed opportunity to move the taillights closer to each other, inside, closer to each other, and then the wide arches, the wide hips would actually stand out more. We have here different designs of tailpipes at the exhaust, unlike the predecessor where you just had the round tips, but that's basically it. I think let's quickly move inside the car so I can walk you through a couple of features that I really liked there. All right, where should I start? Actually quite a lot. When it comes to daily usability and just the functionality of things, there's a couple of things that I really like. Steering wheel. First of all, you have physical buttons on the wheel, so no touch buttons like some manufacturers do. You have very good controls when it comes to the infotainment and also for cruise control. Pedal shifts also very good. I like that. Speaking of physical buttons, thank you BMW for keeping the physical climate controls. So you don't have, again, the touch things or something. You can actually use the buttons and it's extremely convenient, very handy. On the display you have all the necessary information you need. It's nice and clear and digital and very high resolution display. And also the main display that you have here is also very functional. The thing that I like the most is the connectivity with Android Auto, since I'm using Android. Wireless connectivity does the job very well. Speaking of the phone, massive thumbs up for BMW, to BMW, for having a wireless charging dock that can fit massive Samsung S22 Ultra or an even bigger phone. Because for example, with previous 2 series, the M2 or I think even the previous M3, you could not fit a big type phone. Even a smaller version, you would have difficulties with it. You have all kinds of other connectivity. You have a USB, the normal USB, you have here USB Type-C, also actually quite big compartment over here. Different modes. It's actually very minimalistic, but you still have all the physical buttons. I really like it and appreciate it. Different modes: Sport, Comfort, Eco Pro, Adaptive, etc. And switch off the traction control, also very handy when you go on track. Nice shifter, quite familiar. It's, by the way, 8-speed automatic gearbox, and it does the job quite well, pretty well. I like this touch here, that the outside wheel is turning while the inside of the wheel is actually standing still. Overall, when I'm driving this car, I really start appreciating it, because at the beginning I was focused too much on the on-track performance and neglecting its usability for daily use. But when I'm driving it on the street, it's like, okay, it is actually a car, and the quality of materials and also the drive that you would expect from a lot of bigger GT cruiser, like maybe even an 8 series or 6 series in the past. So it does the job very, very well. One thing I noticed I started missing is that the seats are very comfortable. They also offer quite okay amount of support when you go on track. They're more comfortable than they are actually sporty. Something that you need to keep in mind, but for long trips it's perfect. I was missing seat ventilation. I'm thinking, like, you know, with this amount of comfort that you have here, you start thinking like, okay, you know what would be really great, especially in these hot summer days that we have right now, is seat ventilation. Now, last thing before we're gonna put this car on the lift is, let's talk quickly about the price. We have here the spec sheet, and that's actually quite an interesting factor. So we have here the specs. The base price is 56,000 euros. Then you have some interior mods, 1,500, 750 for the Thunder Night Metallic color, which I absolutely love, but you should get the shadow package, by the way, to darken out the headlights. And then all the additional other extra mods, almost 14,000 euro on top. And altogether brings you to a 72,000 euros for the car as is over here. Now, I must say it's quite a lot of money, because I remember the previous, or currently until the new M2s being introduced, M2s with all the dealer discounts, etc. At some point 2 years ago, pre-inflation, pre-everything, you could get them for less than that, significantly less than that, and that puts things into perspective. So you really need to think about, like, is it going to be your just daily car? Go for it. You're gonna love it. Do you want to track it? We're gonna more later on in depth on the track performance. For tracking, I would highly recommend to go for the previous model and spend the rest of the money on the mods that you will have to spend on this car anyway to make it track focused. Now, speaking of track focus, I think that's enough of all the blah blah when it comes to the things of daily use. Again, I absolutely loved it, but now let's put it on the lift, see how the car looks underneath, some important things, put it also on an alignment bench and put it on scales, and further on proceed with obviously the onboard part. The car is now on the lift. We are joined by our head technician, George, that you all know. So let's give a quick look underneath the car first, see what George thinks of it, see what I think of it, and then put the car on scales. And we already put the car on an alignment bench, so it will be interesting to hear your opinion on that as well. So give us your first impression of what we have here.
Well, it's like a spicy 218 from the old generation.
From the F series.
It's kind of weird. It looks like you've got half and half from the old 2 Series generation and the Supra. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of parts that are similar. I don't know if they're exactly the same, but there's a lot of parts that are similar, a lot of things that you kind of look at and go, oh yeah, that's on the Supra, oh yeah, that's on the 218.
Like, for example?
For example, the diff layout, the whole rear subframe layout is very similar to 218. Okay. The toe arms look exactly the same as the Supra. Mm-hmm. I don't know if the part numbers are the same, but they look very, very much the same. Mm-hmm. These arms are very similar to what's on the Supra. Obviously there's different brakes on this car now. I don't know if these brakes are the same as the Supra actually. They probably are. It wouldn't surprise me at all. You
know what's funny is that the car has a GR license plate.
Really?
Yeah, MGR and then 2424. I'm like,
Then it's probably not far off the same as the Supra then. Obviously exhaust, you can see where they've gone emissions crazy and chucked in silencers everywhere and God knows what else. Yeah. So yeah, there's that. Gearbox, I don't really see much because of the covers are all on and stuff.
And it's an xDrive as well. so we don't have an xDrive car.
Probably, yeah, exactly. So it's probably not far off the same what's in the G80 xDrive models, or even the 3 Series, just the 3 Series models that are xDrive. Engine, what engine's in this? This is the same engine as the Supra.
B58, yeah, exactly the same.
So that's obviously the same. Front is obviously different because xDrive, so it's not really anything comparable. It's funny actually because the tension struts, the bushings in these are huge compared to what's in the G80. The G80 bushes are actually really, I think we have a G80 bush we can compare it to.
But ours is S-Drive, whereas this is xDrive, so probably...
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, like, as a comparison, like, the bushing size is a huge difference. Like,
oh, wow.
It's a massive difference.
Yeah, and that's from the M3, mind you.
Yeah, so I don't know what their thoughts were on changing the size of that so much on the M3, but I guess it's for a reason. But yeah, I mean, it's just typical new BMW, isn't it? It's designed for comfort rather than actually going fast. So.
I found that this was supposed to be the M-Technic pack with an oil cooler underneath, but I don't see anything here.
Maybe, I don't know. These weird little...
Yeah, they need to open when it gets hot.
Oh, that's funny. Are they on a motor?
Yeah, interesting.
Good when the motor fails and everything overheats. Yeah, I don't know where the oil cooler is then in that case, but
okay.
Don't know.
Does it offer lots of adjustability? Like
no, it's just typical BMW fashion. Toe is adjustable. Camber on the rear is obviously adjustable. Toe on the rear is obviously adjustable. But as we found with the G80, anything over 2.3 degrees of camber, you can't get the toe adjustment you need on the back. You can only go to like 1 mil in, and that's your maximum. So there's not really enough adjustment on what's there.
Okay.
If you want to set it up for the track, obviously for the road it's perfect, they've got it, that's what it's for, but for the track then you need to end up going to full adjustable toe arms, which is never the end of the world because these soft rubber bushes they use on these toe arms are never nice for compressions and everything else because it changes the geometry too much. You should start getting into the realms of bump steer from like the Supra.
Yeah, that was my opinion on driving the car. It's too much of a GT car, too much of a comfort.
It's just like I say, it's typical BMW nowadays. Like everything's focused on comfort, which is great for the road, but then make sure you say it's not track focused anymore. Yeah. Which an M car should be track focused, in my opinion. It is. It's the whole thing with the G80. The same. It's the same. It looks like they're taking the same route down all of their.
What is that? Oh, that's a bump stop for the exhaust or something.
I think it's for resonation.
Okay.
It's like a damper. They normally put stuff like that on calipers and stuff as well.
Okay.
They have that on most of the most of the M models. I've seen that a lot.
Okay. Cool. So let's put it on the scales, or should we talk about the alignment first? The values, actually.
Yeah, you grab the sheet. So on the rear, there's 1.2 negative camber, which, yeah, I guess it's fine for what we're going to use it for. What you're going to use it for as press car. It's towing in on the rear, which is normal. Then the front, you've only got negative ½ degree of camber, which it's one thing that factory cars that always baffles me a little bit on factory cars. If it's an M model or a model that's supposed to be focused for the track, it confuses me why they don't add camber adjustment on the front. Exactly. I think in some models, like F models, the F80, you could get a -1 degree camber corrected hub. So this whole carrier has camber correction on it, so you can buy 2 different hubs. Obviously, it's not intended for track use, but it's useful for it. So yeah, that's, I guess it's normal on road cars anyway. You normally see that anyway. And then at the front, they've got the front towing in as well, which is strange. Obviously, they've made it a little bit more understeery for safety reasons. But yeah, I mean it's a pretty standard looking alignment, to be honest. It's nothing special. But again, you can adjust toe on the front and you can adjust toe and camber on the rear, and that's it. So it's just normal, normal BMW realms, and you can make it a little bit better. But what's this? You can make it a little bit better, but obviously not perfect for the track. But obviously that's why you buy aftermarket parts. That's why you go to Sherma and buy the small kinematics and all the stuff that Tom does to make the car more adjustable and everything. So
Yeah, basically, long story short, it is. It offers a good basis to be a track car. Yeah. Like out of the box, you just need to, when you play with the alignment, it will become already less understeery. Yeah. But the soft suspension is something you will have to solve with aftermarket. You cannot just. Of course, this car does not have the adaptive suspension, but I wondered, would you want to spend 600 euros on adaptive suspension if you are going to track it anyway? Probably.
And it all comes down to how much of a casual lapper you are. Like, if I was at a point where I'm really not fussed about going that fast and I wanted to buy a car that can do everything, then it's not a terrible base, because like you said, we just change the alignment, we just change the toe, make it a little bit more playful, put maybe some cup twos on, and then toe arms on the back, and just out you go, you know? Yeah. You can change these front tension strut bushings, which I'm sure these are probably the same as F model. You change the necessary bushings that you need, and it's probably not terrible for casual lapping, which is fine. This is what a lot of people would do with a car like this. But if you want to go the extra mile, obviously you need to then start thinking about dampers, you need to start thinking about changing all your spring rates, you need to think about a lot more than just tyres and a couple of uniballs. So,
for sure. Let's put it on scales, see how heavy it is, or light, but...
I guess heavy.
Quite heavy. So what I could find on the internet, as I told you previously, was 1,690 kilos. This car has half a tank of fuel inside.
Oh, it has half a tank?
Yes.
Oh, in that case, then it's probably exactly the same weight as the G80 then.
Really?
Yeah, full tank of G80 was 1748.
Yeah, and this is 1716 with half a tank.
Yeah.
Whew.
If it takes another 30 litres, it's basically another 30 kilos.
Okay, in that case, it's quite a heavy girl. We already knew that. It is as it is. I told you, you can feel the weight on the track. For occasional few laps, it's not that much of an issue, of course. For daily use, you can feel it as well. Some people might say, okay, it's a Grand Tourer, it wants to be a luxury car. But what's the point then of having an 8 Series or 6 Series or 5 Series? It should be a small car. So, as mentioned previously, for me, that's the biggest downside of the car. Now, on the long run, something that we haven't, at this point of making this video, haven't told you, we have big issues with the G80 when it comes to the weight. It is eating through components a lot. Tires, literally, brakes,
tires,
drive shafts.
I must say though, on stock brakes, yeah, it eats the brakes. But since we put the endless pads in, I will say they are phenomenal. Yeah. With the brake cooling and the pads, they are really, really good. But yeah,
but then again, it goes to how much do you want to modify the car?
Of course, exactly. So then, without putting €1,000 pads in and a €300 brake cooling kit and using it as stock to stock comparison, you eat a set of pads in 8 laps, 9 laps, and the pads are gone, metal, all round.
Exactly. So, plus, you might say, okay, I'm not one to track this, but you're obviously not going to use this car to go only to the supermarket. You would want to go maybe like on a small trip, holiday trip, mountain roads, where brakes will be even more demanding than on the track on some occasions. So in that case, it is quite a downside. Yeah, it's simply what it is. It's quite a heavy car, and again, let's not focus too much on that. What about the corner weighting?
Well, from factory, you'd expect it to be like front to back good. So at the moment it's 452 on the front left, 468 on the front right, and basically 400 across the rear axle.
So there's more weight on the front?
Yeah, it's more front biased by, I would say that's probably around what, 54, 55% maybe to the front, which, I mean...
It's not too bad, but...
It's not terrible, but it's not ideal,
it then adds to the understeering character of the car.
Yeah, it's not ideal, obviously. If anyone that's like curious about corner weights, you want it 50-50, 50-50. So front to back, left to right is the perfect balance to have. That's what you aim for. That's what the F80 is. The F80 is 50-50 both ways, side to side, left, front to back. And when it's a noticeable difference...
Can we see how it changes if I go inside?
Yeah, sure. Just make sure you... It's in park, right? Yeah,
it is in park.
Yeah, jump in. This is where we really see how heavy Misha is.
Oh, yeah. And now with the driver.
So this is driver half tank fuel. It's 1810. Give or take if you've had cross-ons this morning or not. So yeah, it's 1800, and obviously you can see the corner weights have changed on the left side because now there's more weight obviously in the left side.
But front to back ratio is still not optimal.
No, it's not optimal, no, but obviously it's not the end of the world. But
no, for sure.
It's like the final touch to setting up suspension is making it as close to 50-50 as possible. But yeah, I mean, it's so heavy.
Yeah.
It's so heavy. It's insane that it's the same as a 3 Series, and the 3 Series is basically the same as a 5 Series. So in theory, this is the same as, I mean, the weight is almost the same across the whole range. It's insane.
No, and this is the whole thing. I mean, it's not a bad thing when a car is heavy, but when this is as heavy as a 3 Series,
5 Series.
5 Series, it loses its appeal of being a small, compact M car, unless you're buying it only for the actual size in terms of the size and the way you like the looks of it. So I have a hard feeling understanding what the car wants to be, like, because it's luxurious, but it also wants to offer performance in a compact size. It does it, but then it runs into these limitations of being heavy, being like lots of soft suspension because it's a GT. So it's tough for me.
We can do a direct comparison in weight to show what the old M2 was, because we will be having a stock M2 soon. So we can do a direct comparison to show why there's, like, the M2 was noticeably different to the F Series, was noticeably different to F80 and stuff. So maybe it'd be a good comparison to show, okay, this is like 250 kilos heavier or something. But yeah, I agree. It's like a confused car, isn't it? It's like the Supra all over again. The Supra, they brought it out and it's kind of just like not here, not there. It's just floating somewhere in the universe as not knowing what it wants to be. So it's strange.
Exactly. Well, I think people are getting a bit tired of our talk. So enjoy the lap. We done like literally dozens of laps with this car, and I must say, up until this point, it held up nicely. I didn't get any like fault codes, even when we were lapping with 36 degrees outside. The cooling was working nicely. So on reliability, as of those first couple of laps, it did well, but it's not long-term enough. But you can probably do, like, if you're not doing too many track days on a year, you should be fine. I'm going to insert a lap that I did with a friend of mine, Lucas, because it was quite a fun lap. It was we had no yellows, I believe, or maybe just one. And also hearing his perspective on the car was quite nice because he has a very big collection of cars himself, from various supercars, but also various M models such as M3 CSL, 1M, the E92 M3, etc. So it was nice to hear his opinion on the M model. So enjoy that, and then, well, see you in a bit for the outro on the conclusion.
It's quite fast.
It's all right.
Much better than in GTR. You can rely on that.
Exactly. Just the brakes get a bit meh. Towards the end of the lap.
I had a few situations, like 2 or 3 times that I went too fast. Over here. Tricky corner.
then it starts giving you bull, you know. At that point, it's like, what is really good?
Yeah, but I'm quite surprised right now. Yeah, I can. Yes, you can feel the weight right now.
Yeah, in the corners.
You can see. You can even see it.
Yeah, and suspension is just way too soft.
Like I told you, I didn't drive the previous one, so I don't have a comparison. Definitely you can go fast with this.
Yeah, if you put different suspension on, better brakes, and after that also tires, because if we put now Cup 2s on, the car just gonna flip, because the suspension cannot handle it. It's going to be quite a good platform, but again, as mentioned, the issue is the weight on the long term, because that's what you see with our M3 Taxi, is just
it's falling apart.
Yeah, brake discs start to crack, drive shafts, because it simply cannot deal with it. Tourists.
I didn't notice. My fellow people.
Yeah. Did they bring pierogi? No one knows.
We can ask them.
Yeah. Let's pull over here, right?
Yeah.
We start getting quite some understeer because everything is quite hot.
That kind of understeer is nothing compared.
No, to GTR.
What we got in GTR.
True.
Yeah, it's heavy, but the suspension is quite well sorted to this car. I mean, they. What was that?
Okay. Yeah, that's a Lotus. Over ref party. The more I drive it, the more I like it, I'll be honest. At first I was like, nah, but it's really not bad by any means.
No, you can really have a nice time in this car.
For sure.
Of course, you're not messing around here. You drive very, very nice. But let's say car for now, at least for now, can follow your lead.
Yeah.
Some kind of regular tires, Michelin?
PS4S, especially for the car.
Especially for a car. So I must say I'm also surprised with the tires. In a positive way.
Yeah, they're not too bad.
That was nice. That rear went a little bit.
Yeah,
off.
and overtaking the M2.
Yeah, that was nice. And twice.
Yeah.
Same. weight we can get.
Yeah.
What? On those corners, we drove freaking fast.
Oh, traffic information, great. That's what we need, of course. With all the traffic here in the Nürburgring.
Yeah. So we will know what's going on after 2 corners.
Yeah.
So she will tell us. Achtung, Achtung, Misha is coming. But right now I'm feeling that car has enough.
Yeah, the car doesn't like it anymore.
And they use everything of the car, and you can rely on this car really.
Yeah,
pushing hard. So with this drive like that, of course, comparing to the previous generations of the car, you can feel this weight, and this is a little bit sad and even disturbing. But it's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's something we have to accept.
Yeah.
And for the weight that the car has, it handles good.
Yeah.
It has a very good basis and it has very good potential to be a track car, because it only needs suspension brakes, then tires as well.
Really,
You're done.
for the stock car, right off from the factory, from the showroom. Of course, like you said, this is car for 1 lap only.
Yeah.
But with some work, yeah, it could be some, like you said, good platform. So if this drives like that, so
M2 should be really good.
At least 1 step level up, or even more.
Yeah, and M2 is going to be only rear-wheel drive, and it's going to be a lot more powerful, like close to 100 horsepower more. So it's going to be a killer. I think if the weight will be kept down in comparison to the M3 and 4, of course, that they're not going to put too much technology in that you don't need for the track, then it's going to be a good, reliable track car. Well, I guess if you want to have a lightweight BMW M model, you should go for something like this. But, of course, if you want to have a daily use car, then it might be a bit too hardcore. All I want to say is that I definitely have enjoyed driving this car, and if you have ordered one or considering ordering one, you're definitely gonna like all the functionalities, all the comfort that it has to offer. It is overall a great car. But if you want to buy this from a mindset from the old school BMWs, or even more recent F-series like the M2 and even the previous M240, it is quite a heavy beast. And you may want to spend extra money on top to make it drivable as the previous models, more sporty as they were, because at the end of the day, this is what you will have to do. But if you just want to have it on the street, you're definitely gonna like the car. So again, I'm just sharing my thoughts and opinions with you based on having driven this car on the road and mostly on the track. And that's basically all I have to say. It's not simply black or white. Some things are really good in this car. Some things are good, but not as great if you would want to drive sporty with it. So it all comes down to you. I think with such a long video, you should have quite a good understanding of the plus sides and maybe like downsides if you want to use it, for example, for sporty models. But yeah, let me know what you think. And I know that by now this car is far from being new, so there are a lot of also M240 owners among you. So what do you think? What would you like to share with people who would like to buy or own such a car? From my side, as mentioned, I really enjoyed driving it. It could be actually interesting to try out the rear-wheel drive version, which is now coming out soon, and to compare it with this in the back of our mind. Although I must say that I really enjoyed the xDrive, and especially for daily use, I think this is the one to go. But yeah, quite heavy, and it might also use more fuel, especially in today's prices. Okay, we start talking too long, too much nonsense. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and looking forward to seeing you in the upcoming one here at the Nürburgring. Bye-bye.